Welcome to Fig Talk. We had merch drop. So we had one of our viewers ask a really great question that maybe beginners really struggle with. Sue Miller pretty much has this question about her figs stalling out. So let's talk about that, and then make sure to stick around. We got the Fig Father doing me a big solid during Labor Day weekend. He came by and he's going to explain how deep watering really works. Let's get to it. So Sue really asks a very important question. We all deal with this as we get more experience in the hobby. One of the biggest things and biggest concerns is the stall out that people generally see with figs. Let me knock out a very big myth really quickly. This will definitely change your experience with the hobby. Back in the day, they used to tell us that you did not want to overwater your figs during the ripening season, or they will potentially split like these or taste watered down. There's some truth to it, but the fact is the old school growers did not really have a lot of aeration in their soil mix. Drainage, can't state this enough, is overlooked in this hobby. Figs love air in their roots. Love air in the roots. So let's talk about this guy right here. This is a yellow long neck. Stalled out on me. There is multiple reasons why a fig has stalled out. This variety, for example, just requires a lot of water. Lot of water. More water than any of my other plants. And I think that's true for most of the honey figs that are available. They just love water. What you'll generally see on these honey figs, if you don't give them enough water, they start to wrinkle. I don't know if I have any available now, but they will wrinkle and eventually drop. So that is one characteristic of these honey figs. They will take the moisture that the tree needs to kind of keep going and stay alive. There's some varieties that will just drop their fruit. And then there's some varieties like Italian 258, right? If you do not water it enough and they stall out, what they'll do is they will drop their leaves and keep their fruit. Every variety kind of reacts differently to the lack of watering. To kind of answer Sue's question, it really has to do with the fact that when you're growing figs in a container and we have high drainage, which I highly encourage, your containers just dry out too fast. You have to, and Antonio will touch on this later in the video, but you can't keep the pot from this cycle of super saturated to going completely dry and saturated. The core of the tree or the pot needs to always have water. Sometimes we also get very impatient as beginners. We really don't understand the variety that we're growing. Some of these varieties just take a long time. So this is a BFF, Bass Favorite Fig, and it has been like this for a long time, right? Probably started seeing figs in July. This is a 120-day fig. I'll be lucky if I get any to ripen. And that is one of the struggles when we get into this hobby and trying to collect and have different varieties, is some just are struggled for our environment that we're growing them in. So another thing I want to bring up is this Ronde Bordeaux is just splitting on me. It didn't split in the past. And this is where we kind of learn about our plants and really getting to understand them. The reason that they are splitting at this point is this tree, this espalier, has been in this container going on 4 years. There's just no more soil to hold moisture. It's one of those things that I would just constantly drip 24 hours if I had a system like that. But do not skimp out on watering. Do not let your containers dry out. Fertilize heavily. Your plants will love it. Let me pass this on to Fig Father, and you can enjoy the video of him raiding my garden. Again, Antonio, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you.
Greetings, y'all. Here at Homer's, formerly known as Basement Figs. Ooh, this one needs some water. Well, he ain't home while Homer's away. The Fig Father will raid. Play. Let's take a look and see what we have here. Looky what we got going on, everyone. We have figs that need to be watered. So I will be watering Homer's figs today. I'm going to show you all how to properly water fig trees to where you get the most bang for your buck on your water bill. I'm not a big advocate of solid pots. Homer loves them, to each their own. But for me, I'm a grow bag or air prune pot individual. They have their pros and cons, which I will get into later on. But before we go through and give these all a drench, what we're going to do is that we're just going to wet the surface of everything. We're not going to really water them. You're just going to wet the surface on every single pot. What this does is that it gets the topsoil ready to get that nice deep drink that they need, because we are towards the end of summer here and they do need a drink. It's a hot day, not over 100 like we have been having, but hot enough where they do need to be watered. So we're just going to wet everything and we're going to come back and give them a good drench. They just went ahead and got everything thoroughly wet first before they get their drink. Some might ask, why do you do this? Well, these pots are bone dry. You can tell by some of the leaves that they needed water. Some more than others, but here's a perfect example. Drooping. Now, water has a tendency to take the easiest path out of wherever you pour it into. So if we pour it in these pots, this soil mix here is dry. It's going to pool in here, go on the edges, and come right out there. This will not absorb the water you put it into. You're wasting your water. That being said, the best way to water figs, of course, is a drip irrigation system. If you have a few figs, not practical, something like this, drip irrigation system would be completely ideal, because you could water multiple times a day. You can control your watering and automate everything, along with even fertilization if you have a dosing system. These pots right here, now that I went through and watered them all just a little bit, not their actual watering, but just to wet it, the material in here is absorbing that water, and when it's dry, it shrinks up. But when it's wet, it plumps back up. So because now I gave them that little sprinkling, the top over here, they're starting to soak it up, not be so dry, and plump back up, which will then allow me to go through with the actual watering, and it will absorb that water a lot better instead of trickling out and running out the sides to where it looks wet, but at the core, it is bone dry still. That's an issue that a lot of people have with watering. Water, but it just doesn't seem like it's ever enough. Well, it's not enough because these trees, they're going through periods of being wet and dry. When they go through periods of being wet and dry, what happens is, like I said, soil dries out, it becomes a little bit more brittle and dry, and it takes a little bit longer for the water to be in contact with it for it to absorb. The water wants to drain out really fast, and then you have the issue where the outside is wet, but the inside core, like I said, is dry. A way to kind of help with that is a product by Advanced Nutrients called Wet Betty. It is a wetting agent, believe it or not, and what it does, as crazy as it sounds, it makes water more wet. Why do you need your water to be more wet? Well, not necessary, but if you're having issues with watering, what it does is that even though these might be dry, it penetrates better. So instead of it running off to the sides and out the holes, it'll actually penetrate this and allow the center core of these pots to be able to absorb that moisture, which then the tree will uptake. I went ahead and watered everything over here with their first initial dose. I think I just stepped on a dog toy. That's what that was. I haven't checked down here. This is Homer's hidden section over here. He's got one lonely fig tree right here. Probably thought I'd forget about it, but no. I took care of it. Pretty sure it's a brown turkey. He's keeping it there because, you know, he's ashamed of it. But it's okay. If you like California brown turkeys, it's fine. So now I will go ahead and actually give everything their drink of water now that I've let everything settle and absorb the initial little watering that they got. All right, so I'm over here watering. I turn my back, I swear, for 1 minute. 1 minute. And guess who shows up with the wheelbarrow raiding Homer's fig collection over here? Jacking a fig. What are you jacking?
Shh. I told you, no cameras.
A fig, in and out. In and out. I love it. I had to chase a fig raider out of here before they went off with more figs. Sadly, they got away with one, but they didn't get away with more. So, after giving them their initial drink, now I'm giving them their deep drench. See, the issue when you don't water on a consistent basis, and it gets wet and dry, you get a lot of runoff. So, let's talk a little bit. Soil mixes can be expensive. I'm a big proponent of having all my pots relatively the same size because I know exactly how much they need on a daily basis. Meaning that my expensive fertilizer and whatever is stored in the soil does not flush out and run off like this. When you got consistent soil moisture, when you water on a consistent basis, this does not happen. I make sure that I add enough water to where I get slightest little trickle, but I don't get a lot, meaning that what's in the pot stays in that pot. We went through and gave them an initial wetting. I went through and drenched everything. I'll probably go through and water them once again with the spray setting. Now that I'm letting these pots kind of absorb that moisture and swell back up from that. If you ever left a sponge out in the sun, it could go from the package, which is nice and supple, to just shrinks up like that. That's kind of like what happens to your soil in pots.
What an awesome video from Antonio, aka the Fig Father. Again, merch drop coming soon. We're just working on the logistics, guys, so please be patient. Any products that we talk about in our videos, please, if you want to support the channel, the best thing to do is watch the videos, search the description. There's always going to be links to buy the products that we're talking about. You don't have to. You really don't, but we do appreciate it if you do. So Homer from Fig Talk, peace. Love you guys. Let's go.